Welcome back, everybody, to Radio Row. We have a very special guest. We have the New Jersey man himself, Mr. New Jersey. We have Conor Orr, SI writer that covers the NFL MMQB. He's also a co-worker of Gilbert. But Conor, thank you so much for jumping on with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. What's up, Gil?
Doing okay. How about you? How you in Las Vegas, hanging out or grinding away, I'm guessing?
Trying to resist temptation, the blackjack tables are calling, but, we're journalists. We don't have that kind of disposable income to throw around.
I was going to say, but you could make more income if you do play.
I don't understand the math, and so I'm always just like, I play a lot of poker, but I play it like a retirement community. So there's like a lot of old ladies on like a fixed income, and so you can bully them out of the pot pretty easily, and that's like my strategy. But that doesn't work in Las Vegas. Everybody's very good.
You can pull Alan from The Hangover and just go completely try and count the cards and everything and do all that.
I've been waiting for that to happen to me my whole life. It hasn't worked yet.
When how many times have you guys? Gilbert's been there for about a year. How many times have you guys met in person? I know everything's
First time.
Oh
yeah.
Wow.
I want to say
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I might have run into you at media night last year.
I don't think so. That was Albert Breer, but not you.
You talked to Albert,
Yeah, I talked
right?
to Albert, so I met him for the first time there.
Okay.
But I've never met you in person. I met Mitch here last year. I met John last year too. I met Matt at the Combine, but first time, now I think about it, yeah.
Yeah.
So you're probably thinking when I approach you around, who's this weird guy coming up to me who I just
No,
see
I
on
know,
Zoom
I
as
do.
a head?
Yeah.
He's like, I recognize that mustache.
Hey, Kyle did give me a compliment when I was growing the mustache, like in November or something. He gave me a good compliment, so I appreciate that.
You have to. It's such a power move.
You should have seen him. So when in 2020 during COVID, Pep Hamilton had just been hired as a Chargers quarterbacks coach, and we got to talk to him on Zoom. And he goes, very serious guy, but then he goes, Gilbert, is that thing real? Like, that's a real mustache? Because Gilbert had a COVID mustache, and he's like, is that real? He's like, yes, it is. It is my actual facial hair, and everybody just started laughing.
Connor, I'm all about my haircuts, and I couldn't get a haircut during that time.
Same.
So, yeah, I know. I like the clean cut, so I know you like those too. But I take it very seriously. And I said, couldn't get a haircut, so I might as well grow the mustache. And it got pretty fierce there, just to say the least.
COVID is when I gave up on hair. And,
Really?
Yeah, because I was, my wife said it, and like one day someone took a picture of me, like a picture of, I was in a group, and I saw a picture of me from behind, and I didn't know it was me. And I was like, who's that jerk with the bald spot in the back of his head? She's like, that's you. And I was like, why didn't you tell me I had that? And she's like, we just didn't know how to break it to you. So that day, completely gone, been like Mr. Clean ever since.
You know, it's funny, during COVID, obviously the Chargers still had training camp. So we all showed up, and you were there. You have to socially distance and wear masks and everything. But in one of those, this one over here tries to narc on me. He's like, nobody else had gotten a haircut, and I showed up with a haircut. And he's like, did you do that? I'm like, no. One of my family members gave it to me. He's like, yeah, right, that looks professionally done. I was like, no. I was like, it's not. And actually, it was. Like, I had to go into like a dark room. They turned on the light. It was like back, all that stuff. You know how that all went. But I'm like him. My hair needs to be clean. I can't do the scruffy look. I don't look well when I'm on that scruffy look. So
we have to take a minute to appreciate that we're like peak COVID. I was like, we're never coming back here again. We're never doing this again.
Yeah.
And like, this is great. We're like shoulder to shoulder with everybody, probably getting COVID at some point again this week. But I came into it with
even the 2021 year in LA, when the Super Bowl was in LA, like, I told Gilbert, I don't know how Radio Row's going to be, dude. And then we have people showing, like Juliana Pena, the UFC women's champion. Like, we had so many people showing up, and you're like, okay. I guess we're all pretty cool on this. So, all right, let's keep on doing it. But it was just, no, it was 2022. My bad. 2022.
The one in LA? Los Angeles?
Yeah. So that was pretty interesting.
I said this last week. So I had COVID 2 weeks ago. I tested because I was going to see someone who was a lot older, and I was like, I just have like a tickle in my throat. I'm going to make sure. Tested positive, so it knocked me out for the Ravens-Chiefs game, the divisional round. If I didn't test because of that elderly person, I would have knocked out everybody in that press box, and everybody in that locker room, like Taylor Swift would not be at the Super Bowl. And that's all. That's because of me. That's because of my heroic.
I think half of America would have hated you. The other half would have been like, right on, Connor.
Thank God. Somebody did it.
God bless you.
You kind of already have that anyways, because people, half of them like your columns, and half of them hate them. So I'm
more than half.
You're used to that, right?
Yeah, more than half.
Oh, but that's the way this goes. I mean, sometimes when we do stuff, like you criticize Jared, like my brother and I do a Chargers podcast on the side, and then Gilbert and Vic do a Rams one. And I was telling Gilbert that, like, we criticized Jared Goff halfway through the year. We're like, he's still Jared Goff, this, that, or like we criticized Lamar, and like all their fans just came at us and they're like, you guys are a hacks, you guys are this, you guys are that. And it's crazy the way people like right now, The Rock was over there talking about all these people that are coming after him, and he's like, people are at home and they're like, hey, I don't like the way you're talking about this. And he's like, their kids come in, Daddy, can you come and play with me? No, I have to talk crap about to The Rock. And he's like, and I'm over here on Twitter and everything. So it's just funny the way people come out of the woodworks to criticize. They don't go, hey, great job on this, that you did. No, they're quick with the criticism though.
Yeah, it's every once in a while, it's like, can I just hear like a great podcast, Connor? Like, thanks for the hour of free entertainment that costs me nothing, But no, that's just the way it is.
Connor, before I ask you an actual football question, I was over there at the Pat McAfee booth. I saw The Rock, and I'm a big fan from the late '90s and early 2000s of pro wrestling, so I had to get over there. These guys don't like The Rock because of the movies he's making. I don't care about the movies. I care about the pro wrestling days. Walking around here, have you been starstruck at any point?
So at the Sports Illustrated tent, I'm not going to say what time, but Bobby Flay's coming. Ooh. And I already told them, I was like, I don't care what you guys are doing. I'm meeting Bobby Flay. But the best one was in Minneapolis, which was, 2019, maybe Super Bowl, 2018? 2018, I think, the Eagles-Patriots Super Bowl. Guy Fieri was on Radio Row, and someone else from the media was like, haha, come over here and take my picture with Guy Fieri. And they thought it was a joke, but I was like, no, seriously, this is like one of the biggest moments of my life. And we got like thrown out of the Sirius studio for taking a picture with him, but he was awesome. And it's still like a top 5 life moment for me. I love Guy Fieri.
I actually messaged his agent to see if he was going to be out here because I wanted to get him on the show. Like, I watch the Food Network also, so like I love all that stuff. And I was like, oh yeah, can we? And then she's like, oh, he's actually not going to be. I'm like, it's in Vegas. How is he not going to do Radio Row?
Yeah.
So I guess he wasn't doing it. But Buddy Velastro.
Yes.
Cake Boss. He's going to be here tomorrow.
Oh, from Hoboken, Jersey.
Yeah. He's going to be. He's going to be here. So it's going to be. There you go. You and I are both going to be excited about that.
Tell him to cut down on the lines in the Hoboken place. You can't even get a Cake Boss cake anymore.
He's gonna. I think he's supposed to be stopping by here around 12:30. So if you wanna,
I might give him a piece of my mind.
It's funny. He's gonna be on the Pat McAfee show.
Is he?
Yeah. And then then his agent was like, "Oh, I'll bring him over here with you guys." So I told Gilbert, I'm like, I'm so excited. Gilbert's like, "Oh, okay." Like I'm over here like all hype and everything.
Well, Connor, I like reading your columns. I like how your brain works when it comes to the NFL storylines. Can you give me what's on your radar, non-49ers Chiefs related from Super Bowl week or the NFL offseason? What are you kind of locked in right now as you try to think about stories for 2024?
Well, I guess it's tangentially 49ers related, but if Brock Purdy plays poorly, where does Kirk Cousins go to San Francisco, right? And I think that's like Kyle Shanahan spent all week talking about how Brock's my guy, Brock's my guy, Brock's my guy. We can't know that, right? I mean, you're pumping him up before the game, but you guys were talking about Jared Goff, and Brock reminds me a lot of Jared Goff in that I talked to people who are down on the field, and I was at the Rams-Patriots Super Bowl that year, and I talked to people down on the field during pregame warmups, and they were like, Jared Goff looked like he was going to get hit by a truck. Like, he looked terrified, and you could see it in his eyes. And I wonder if that's going to be like Brock Purdy, where that moment is going to be so huge for him. And if you're Kyle Shanahan, you're dealing with such a thinning window of competitiveness. I mean, Trent Williams is 36. You're probably going to lose Brandon Ayuk in free agency. Do you go the Kirk Cousins route and say, sorry, Brock, like maybe you have to sit another year and we'll pay you the $7 an hour that you're currently making on your rookie contract, So that'll be interesting.
I guess, how do you see it playing out? Because Brock did, was so-so against the Packers and the Lions, but I appreciate what he did coming from behind.
Yes.
And taking some big hits, extending plays, getting hit and making throws, letting the playmakers do the heavy lifting, but also doing his part of rallying. But when you see the Chiefs defense, the Jerry Sneed, Trent McDuffie, Spags, game planning, and Chris Jones, do you feel like it might be kind of the Brock that we saw against Baltimore?
Brock's going to have to be fantastic, right? Like what one coach told me this week makes a lot of sense. The Chiefs have the best tackling secondary in the NFL, toughest cornerbacks to run on in the NFL. And what do the 49ers do? They try to put playmakers in space in that 5 to 10 yard range, and then they depend on the yards after the catch. If you shut that down, if Christian McCaffrey's only getting 4, 5, 6 yards a catch, Deebo Samuel's not breaking out, Brock's going to have to hit a big throw at some point in that game. And just like Jared Goff in the 49ers Chiefs Super Bowl, right? When it came down to him and the game was on his shoulders, he skied like the ball that he needed to hit in that game, and they lost the Super Bowl. And so what happens when he's Kyle Shanahan and Brock put in almost the exact same situation on Sunday?
No, and the crazy part is that I wonder, I mean, obviously now they talk about it that supposedly they had interviewed Tom Brady.
Right.
And that they had thought about bringing him in and everything. But my question is, did that hurt any of Brock Purdy's? I mean, he had a good season, but in the back of his mind, like if he does end up losing on Sunday, and then it's like you said, the storyline, if he ends up losing and in the back of his head, he must be like, dang, like obviously Kyle, I think Kyle, even, I don't know how much you think, but do you think Kyle has to have some pressure, especially after the Falcons game, the Falcons Super Bowl, then the first one against the Chiefs, then you lose to them again.
Right.
I think the pressure starts getting, and that's why I think they could go get Kirk Cousins, because he's like, you know what? I have to do something. We keep on making it, and we just keep on flaming out.
And you can't, I mean, the core of your team are these veteran playmakers, and you can't look them in the eye and say that Brock's your guy again next year, because those guys know. They understand. And, yeah, I mean, I think you make a really good point. I don't know what the answer is, but I think that Kyle knows this is his last really good shot. And then you're going to have to retool, right? You're going to have to find another anchor left tackle. It's really hard to find offensive linemen to play really well in this scheme. Trent Williams is perfect, but Trent Williams comes around like a comet. So, those guys are once every 15, 20-year players. Where are you going to get the depth, that offensive line depth to replace him? Who are you going to replace Brandon Ayuk with? Because you're not paying him $25 million. Somebody is.
You think he does get that money? Yeah.
Because the market's the market, right? And it only takes one team. Christian Kirk got 18, and it wasn't really 18, but at that time, that's where the market was. And so Brandon Ayuk will get somewhere around there, or he'll stay on a very high-end, like, one-year deal and then vault himself into free agency the next year if he wants to do that. But, I mean, you got to get your money while you get your money here. So,
have you thought about where maybe it could be a story for you or I don't know, but landing spots for Brandon Ayuk where you want to see him?
landing spots are like, not that we think about this in terms of anything, but it is a click gold mine. You sit there and you're just like, oh yeah, landing spot. Every time a player goes into free agency, you're like, landing spots. Panthers,
yeah,
for sure. I mean, Jacksonville, they need a true number one. They're kind of trying to operate with a lot of 2s and 3s. You think about all these teams that need to take that next step. The Giants are another team that I think could really utilize him, but he's going to have a market. It's Mike Evans, right? And Mike Evans is going to go to like the Jets or the Chiefs. I think Mike Evans is going to go somewhere where he knows he can win a Super Bowl and then walk out. So probably not the Jets, but he's going to have one of those situations. Other than that, it's not a really bustling wide receiver market, so he should do all right for himself.
Conor, I'll give you credit. You were on Dave Canales pretty early.
Yeah.
With the Bucks and the OC for Baker Mayfield. You kind of maybe predicted maybe a guy for a long shot to get a head coaching job, and he goes to Carolina. When I read your story and I found out he was a Mexican American, I got pretty excited. So that's good to see a head coach in the NFL of Mexican American descent. So, how do you see it playing out for him in Carolina? A lot of people didn't want that job, but you know how it works here. When you get 32 jobs in the NFL, they don't come around pretty often. So I'm guessing there was some kind of competition from Dave Canales, but for him to get that job and try to help out Bryce Young, how do you see that playing out?
I think him and Bryce Young get along super well. I think like that, just knowing both of them, I think their personalities align. So I think that'll work. But what's interesting about Dave Canales is, you talk to people who understand his scheme and his system. He ran the Buccaneers offense like a coach would that doesn't have any good wide receivers. And what I mean by that is, if you have a team with really bad wide receivers, you run a scheme where on every play, any one of your wide receivers can do any of the cuts. So outbreaking, in-breaking, go, or stop, right? And so you make it so you're building in that hesitation for defensive backs, and so you gain that little advantage. But he was doing that with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. And so you elevate the scheme to a point where, and so a lot of people will say, okay, Dave Canales is great because he had Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. But he was running a scheme that he will be able to run in Carolina because, again, it's a scheme for a team with a bad wide receiver. And right now he comes in with bad wide receivers. But I think it's going to work. I think he's a good guy, I think he's going to be able to lead a team. He's a Pete Carroll disciple. So I think that works in Carolina as long as the owner doesn't throw a drink in your face.
There were 8 head coaches that were hired. Any head scratchers, not from the jobs or like maybe interviews I did. Like one of mine was I didn't understand why the Raiders didn't interview Jim Harbaugh. I thought that would have been very interesting. But anything like that or anything that stood out to you from that period?
First things first, I was talking to someone about this the other day. The fact that Bill Belichick isn't a head coach is mind-blowing to me. And I know that people have vehement disagreement with that, and, it's a fun argument to have. But if you were to be able to get him to come in and not have Josh McDaniels as his offensive coordinator, you take that in a heartbeat. This is still the best defensive coach in the history of the NFL and right now. He had bad players, and he was making really good teams look stupid throughout the season. He would do that again. And now the question is, would he agree to something like that? Would he agree to not be in charge of personnel, all that kind of stuff? And I don't know how those conversations went, but if you're the Raiders, I know you just got rid of Josh McDaniels, but not even a phone call, not even a thought about something like that. Vrabel, same thing.
Bill Belichick came in Walter Payton's rookie year. That's when he started coaching.
That's crazy.
That is just completely nuts. Speaking of that, what did you make of the Mike Vrabel intimidated some general managers story?
I would believe it, right? But also, if you're a GM and you're that afraid of that situation, you probably shouldn't be in professional football, and that means you're probably not that confident in your own abilities, right? If you can't stand up to him and you can't make your own personnel decisions independent of him, then I think that's a problem in and of itself. But I meant to write this about Vrabel, and I haven't gotten a chance to yet. I think he's really smart. I mean, to back out a year, you're going to get the Sean Payton effect when you bounce back into the market next year. And look at the primo jobs that are going to be available, maybe available next year, right? The Bears, the Eagles, the Cowboys. There's going to be some big-time jobs potentially open next year.
Breaking news, Conor Orr says that the Eagles, the Bears, and the Cowboys are going to be crap next year, and they're going to have to fire out. I'm just messing around.
I think those coaches are on borrowed time, though, right? Yeah.
Well, and this is the thing that I saw this year from my bad, Gilbert. I'll let you go right now. This is what I saw from Brandon Staley. Brandon Staley, after the 27-0, because I cover the Chargers, he fired everybody around him.
Yep.
He fired Ronaldo. Well, he let Ronaldo Hill go over to the Dolphins. And then obviously Joe Lombardi was gone. Well, after you do that and you come out and have a stinker, everybody's going to, because you got Kellen Moore, you brought up Derek Ansley, now everybody's going to look at you.
Yep.
That's what I feel like is going to happen with Nick Sirianni. If Nick Sirianni can't bounce back this year, there's no one else you can fire. It's going to be you because you got Vic Fangio the way you wanted. You got your guy. So I agree with you. I think those 3 jobs are on borrowed time in a sense, but just real quick. Go ahead, answer. Sorry. Yeah. I was going to ask you something else.
No, I agree. I mean, I wrote this thing in 2018 called the 5-step head coach survival guide. And when you're going to get fired, when you think you're going to get fired, the first thing you do is you fire both your coordinators. And the second thing that you do is you tell reporters that you're taking a bigger picture role, or I'm an offensive guy, so I'm going to spend more time with the defense. That's a telltale sign that you're getting fired. Every coach does that. I mean, I've been covering the league for 14 years, which is not a lot, but I've seen it so many times. And every time a coach says, I'm going to spend more time on the other side of the ball, you're like, okay, so you almost got fired. That's basically, that's what that means.
Yeah. Can I
go ahead.
Real quick, one more. I heard Shannon Sharp say that Ryan Poles is in a very difficult position right now because he said, if you trade out and it doesn't work out with Justin Fields, Marvin Harrison Jr., whoever they draft, and in turn, let's say Washington comes up and grabs Caleb Williams, what ends up you could lose your job. Like, this is a very critical point right now. Do you agree with that? Do you think Ryan Poles is kind of not in a spot where you're kind of in no man's land, like damned if you do, damned if you don't, kind of?
That's why, like, everyone has laughed at me constantly. And you talk about getting hate for Colin. They should keep both. And nobody agrees with me. And I don't understand it. Why wouldn't you keep both? What are you going to get for Justin Fields on the open market? At best.
Second?
Maybe,
Yeah.
right? Okay. What would you get for him if you let him walk for a compensatory pick? A third rounder?
Yeah.
Okay. So draft Caleb Williams, make him sit for a year. Every quarterback is demonstrably better. Like, there's no question that sitting helps. Look at Jordan Love. Look at Patrick Mahomes. Like, this is proven. It works. Keep Caleb Williams. Let Justin Fields ball out for one more year. Justin Fields is way better than he's ever been. He's winning games with his arm now. Let him ball out for a year. Make the playoffs. That roster is good enough to make the playoffs. That division is not that good. The Lions could take a step back easily, Make the playoffs as a 7 seed. Then trade Justin Fields, or what he would be on this is his 4th year, right? And then next year's his 5th year option year. Yeah. Okay. So what happens? Worst case scenario, you get a 2nd round pick from next year, 3rd round pick from next year. That's what you're going to get in the comp pick anyway if you let him walk.
Gilbert, you may now speak to Connor. I apologize.
No, I was going to say, I like that idea. So I would keep both quarterbacks, and that's why you're the columnist for SI, Connor. You do everything. You're a marathon runner.
But he's right. Why wouldn't they do that?
I like it. So that's
I'm starting there's a Bears podcast over there, and I told them I'm coming on and I'm doing that.
It's Walter Payton's son over there, so definitely do that.
And did you see that video of Jackson Smith and Jigba yesterday?
Oh, yeah. Are we live?
Yeah.
We're not live, Connor, so you're good. But we love the takes. Again, marathon runner, avid book reader. I'm guessing a good cook because you're watching all these cooking shows. You step on Legos because your kids have it everywhere. I got you.
Connor, we should do a cookbook.
We should do a cookbook.
Oh, can you imagine?
Be a lot of like top ramen.
Oh, well, over here it'd be a lot of smoking. No, smoking meats, smoking that stuff. Not the other.
He can review it and write about it.
There you go. Yeah.
I used to do that. I used to write about food.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
So because of Justin Herbert, he started smoking meats. I was like, you know what? I want to start doing that. So I got myself a Traeger grill and slowly but surely started doing it. I'm like, oh my god! And this is my number one fan right here. He's like, dude, you make some amazing things. So. But my bad. Go ahead.
No, go ahead and give him a good outro.
No, I had one more question. Actually.
Oh, okay.
If it's cool.
I know Connor has to go work too. So.
Oh, is it cool?
Yeah.
Okay. So I have a theory that, I heard everything that came out about Ben Johnson and maybe he interviewed bad, whatever. I think he's holding out for one of those jobs, knowing that he could go in. 2, I think the Kansas City job could be opened as well. And I feel like that's what he wants, an established quarterback where he can come in, do his thing. What sense did you kind of get from because it was a saga.
Yeah.
It was a saga about, hey, we're on our way to go see you. Hey, you know what? I'm good. Like, I think I'm going to stay with what I got. Whoa, sorry. Here's another one for you. We're going to run it back.
Right.
That's another one that people like to use when they pull out of jobs and all that. But what do you make of the Ben Johnson saga?
So I think mid-season when we started projecting what kind of jobs were going to be open, I had heard that he liked the Bears job if it were to come available, and it didn't. And so he was from Carolina. He's got family in Carolina. And then the owner goes haywire and starts throwing drinks and acts like a crazy person, right? And fires Frank Reich, who's like one of the most likable people in the NFL, right? So I think you lose points there. And I agree with you. I think he's waiting for a really good job. And, I think everything else got caught up in the NFL rumor cycle. I can tell you for a fact, he was not asking for $15 million a year. That's false. I think that my guess is that they viewed his market similar to DeMeco Ryans, which makes sense, right? DeMeco Ryans got $10 million a year. Why wouldn't Ben Johnson get $10 million a year? He was the best coordinator of that cycle to come out, desperate teams, whatever. I think it's also true that he probably does interview poorly, and not everybody interviews great. Matt Eberflus didn't interview great. He's brilliant, so you hire him. Bill Belichick didn't interview great. He's brilliant, so you hire him. So, yeah, I think a lot of these things can be true, and I do think that Ben knows you get one crack at this, right? And so, wait until the right opportunity. And, none of these jobs were really all that attractive, right? Yeah. Washington didn't have a quarterback. L.A., the Chargers job is interesting, right? But I think the Spanos family needs to show me that they're a little bit more interested in, paying for stuff, And
but did you feel like the the Harbaugh signing? Again, I'm sorry I'm keeping you.
No.
It's interesting to talk to you. Did you think the Harbaugh signing kind of showed the first
That
step
was
of
their that was their like, hey, by the way, we're open for business now, because whatever, that's going to be a 16, 17 million dollar year bill.
You can't. I'm sorry, but you've been wasting Justin Herbert the first 4 years.
The
of
whole
his
rookie
career.
contract.
Yeah,
it's gone,
I know.
Yeah.
and you got nothing to show for it.
And
so
and they were like, hey, with Brandon Staley, it just didn't come to fruition. I mean, it was just a bad. Then obviously at the end, it seemed like there was a little bit of turmoil in the locker room and everything. So
yeah,
it's just a crazy one. But Connor, we appreciate you so much for jumping on with us. You are my foodie brother now. Now
That's
I know
right,
who
baby.
to talk to about food and recipes and everything. But we definitely appreciate you jumping on, and congratulations on meeting Gilbert for the first time. Now your life is going to change forever, Connor.
it's never going to be the same.
It's never going to be the same. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.